But I always remembered he said that in Chicago, there were only two seasons: winter and the 4th of July. Hey everybody, SC Closer. Friends call me Vic. This is another episode of Vic's Sea Stories and Tall Tales. This one, I want to talk about, I'm going to keep stick on the boot camp in Naval Training Center theme here, Great Lakes, Illinois. And I'm going to say Chicago. I'm going to name this one Chicago, a place of extremes. Let me tell you about Chicago. The wind blows almost every day. There's always wind, okay? It gets pretty hot in Chicago in the summertime. And it gets pretty cold in Chicago in the wintertime. My experience in Chicago was I got down there in October 1985. It was already starting to get cool. It started snowing. I think we had snow sometime around December, but it melted. Somewhere getting into January, it would snow, and it did not melt. And the snow plows would come down the road, and they push the snow up in big piles on the side of the road, and it'd be brown, and it'd start looking nasty and stuff, and it didn't melt. And then it would snow again, and it'd be that much more snow. And then they'd come down and plow it again, and then eventually it would snow again. This went on all winter. They had huge piles of snow when in Waukegan out at the mall. They had a mall out there called Lakehurst Mall we used to like to go to. They had huge piles of snow out there in the parking lot. It must have been 30 feet high, where they just push it all up, and it just sat there until the spring. So nothing's really started melting until like April, okay? And it was just cold and just snow and icy everywhere. I think that in April they went down to bust the ice up down in the marina on the base, and it seemed like they said it was over a foot thick still or something. I don't know. It was, but they broke it up to try to get it to melt faster. I don't know how they broke it, to be honest with you. That's just what I was hearing. And I think we walked by it one day and it was kind of broken up. So I don't know what they did to do that. But then one day, and I got a picture of this. If I find that picture, I might insert it in here so that you could see it. It was sometime in April or May. And it was a beautiful blue day. Beautiful blue sky, beautiful clear day, and there was no wind. And this is the first time since I've been there that we had a day there was no wind, and it was beautiful sunny day, and we thought it was warm, and we put on shorts and t-shirts, and we were walking around the base. And I have a picture of a couple of my shipmates walking along by the credit union on base. It was Great Lakes Federal Credit Union. And there was the little sign was up there and had the temperature up there on it. And I had a picture of them walking with short sleeve shirts and shorts on. And then you could see the temperature up on the sign. It said 42 degrees. 42 degrees, sunshine, perfectly clear skies, no wind. That felt warm to us because it had been so cold over the winter. Many times it dropped below zero. Wind chill could hit negative 40. It could get really cold. And we were right on the lake, and I think the winds were coming off the lake most of the time, and that's where, why it was so cold. Now, I was in Chicago, Great Lakes, up until early July 1986 before I left. And I remember, I think July the 2nd, 1986, I believe it was a Saturday, because I was off that day. And I remember I went down to the beach that day, on the shoreline there in Lake Michigan. And I went down there and had my bathing suit and my beach towel. And there were people down there, and there were people out in the water swimming. And I took shoes and everything off, got ready, had my little towel laying up there in the sand. And I went walking across the sand down to the lake. And I was like, hoo, hoo, ha, 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 because the sand was burning my feet. July the 2nd, 1986, it was 102 degrees in Chicago. So I'm burning my feet across this sand, and I walk out in Lake Michigan. I start to wade out there in Lake Michigan. And that water's cold. And I got up to about to my waist, and I tried to lean into the water with my chest. And when that cold water hit my chest, I could not breathe. I could not breathe. That's how cold that was. So I had to come out of that water. And here I go back across the sand, burning my feet. So the water is so cold you can't swim in it. The sand's so hot you can't walk across it. I can just go back over there and get dressed and I'll leave. I'm like, this place is a place of extremes. And then I thought about it. Somebody had told me that once before. Do you guys know the Southern humorist Louis Grizzard? Louis Grizzard was a real funny guy. He wrote books and he used to write for different newspapers and all. And he used to write, I believe, for the Chicago Sun for a while. And I used to read his articles. They used to run those in the Sumter Daily Item when I was a kid. And he always wrote interesting, kind of funny things. But I always remembered he said that in Chicago, there were only two seasons: winter and the 4th of July.